Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome again to Syriana Analysis. I'm your host, Kevork Almassian. Thank you very much for tuning in to today's special live streaming, which is dedicated to you to answer your geopolitical questions. There is nothing off the table. All the questions you have from far east to far west of the globe, if I'm capable of answering your questions, I will do my best to answer them in the most objective way possible. Some of the answers will definitely be subjective because they're related to me, for example, when it comes to Syria or to Armenia. But the rest of the issues, I will do my best to answer them objectively. If you're watching this on YouTube or on Rumble, I appreciate you. And I would really appreciate it if you hit the like button as you watch this stream. It helps me a lot with the algorithm of YouTube. It pushes the content to the suggestion list of other people who are not subscribers of this YouTube channel. I can see that there are so many YouTube channels nowadays receiving tens of thousands of views. To be honest with you, I'm not going to criticize them, good for them, but they are literally telling the people what they like to hear. On this channel, it's not my style to tell you what you people would like to hear, but to tell you the hard facts, sometimes the bitter truths about different things. Therefore, brace yourself for solid geopolitical analysis today. Hit the like button, subscribe to Syriana Analysis, whether you're watching this on YouTube or on Rumble. I will go through the comments, my friends, and I will start answering your questions. If somebody posted, let's say, a super chat, a super sticker, or whatever these things that exist on YouTube, I will receive a notification on the software, and this comment will go up, which means I will prioritize also the questions which are super chat or super sticker or whatever they are called nowadays on YouTube. But I will do my best to answer all your questions. I cannot promise you that I will be able to answer them all because we have 1 hour. I started 10 minutes earlier. I played some introductory video, like a countdown, different videos from different cultures around the world. And now we will start our stream. Our first friend, his name is GS Greece, and I would assume you are a Greek. And I truly have a special kind of feelings, positive feelings for the Greek people, and they also share the same thing with me. I'm an ethnic Armenian, and the Greeks love Armenians a lot. I have seen that firsthand when I was in Greece several times. Every time somebody notices or realizes that I'm an Armenian, you notice that even their behavior becomes even better with you only because you're an Armenian. So, chapeau, thank you for you. What do you think about the situation in the Aegean Sea and the Eastern Mediterranean regarding Greece, Cyprus, Turkey, and Israel? Very interesting questions, actually. I'm not an expert in the Greek foreign policy. However, when I watch the eastern shore of the Mediterranean, and when I see the struggle over different gas and energy fields beneath the Mediterranean and the competition between different parties who is going to become an energy hub in the region, I see that Greece has a very crucial interest in limiting the Turkish influence in the Mediterranean, especially when it comes to the Turkish aspiration to become an energy hub. Now, unfortunately for Greece, that Russia and many other Middle Eastern countries preferred Turkey to play this role. And therefore, what Greece is trying to do is to rebalance this, let's say, the power struggle in the region when it comes to the energy resources by moving rapidly and into the direction of Israel. Now, Israel and Turkey cooperate in different files in the region. Turkey served Israeli interests so many times in the region. Turkish leaders have big mouths when it comes to Turkey, but when it comes to the actual policy makings which could harm Israeli national interest, let's say, or strategic interest, Turkey always hesitant to confront Israel because Israel, at the end of the day, is not only a strategic ally for the United States, it's like the baby boy, it's like the spoiled boy of the United States. So Turkey is not suicidal, and they always try to rebalance their relationship. But there is, again, different layers for this geopolitical game in the region, one of which is there is a competition between Turkish and Israeli influence in the region. And accordingly, you see that Greece is moving closer to Israel and further from Turkey. And this could be justified from the Greek side that Turkey, at the end of the day, is ruled nowadays by an Islamist party, and they support Islamist groups in the region, especially the Muslim Brotherhood. And we have seen this example in Syria, and it's not in the interest of Greece to increase the pan-Turkic, the Muslim Brotherhood power in the region. So I see that Greece is trying to rebalance this relationship in the region by moving closer to Israel. Now, will Israel support Greece? I think that Israel is supplying weapons to Greece. But Greece is also buying lots of weapons from the United States. It's a NATO member. So it's really complicated. But in my opinion, the danger of Turkey is it is solid. And the Greeks have all the justifications and all the right to be worried of Turkey, because the current day Turkey is definitely an imperialist power and they have an expansionist aspirations. And when you read and check what the type of rhetoric coming from Turkey, they're talking about soft occupation of different regions of the world, right? So this is how I see the situation in the agency, which I was there, and it's amazing. And if anybody would like to go to Greece, I would highly recommend them to go to the western shore of Greece. I mean, Eastern Shore is also beautiful, of course, but when you go there, try to buy local. Always buy local, guys. Try to support local products. Don't go to bigger supermarkets. So our friend, as I promised, every time I receive a super chat, I will get a notification on the surface, so I will prioritize answering them first. Our friend Rami El-Zen asks, many people seem to be idealizing Russia and China now, but what have they done about the ongoing genocide? So I think this is a very fair question. And I was also deluded and disillusioned in the past few years and thought that China and Russia will weigh in when the right time and right circumstances come in order to not only stop the atrocities of Israel in against the Palestinians, but also in Syria, right? We understood after 10 years of Russian involvement in the region that Russia has limitations, and Russia is not yet a superpower, and Russia is not willing to become a superpower. Russia is willing to cooperate with different poles in the international system, but it is not willing to play the role of the Soviet Union. And the current day Russia is very different from the Soviet Union. If you remember, back in the days, the Soviet Union supplied a lot of weapons to what they call the revolutionary movements and in the third world countries against US interests, including in Syria and Palestine, right? This is no longer the issue now. Russia, for example, hold back lots of weapons from Syria, although Syria paid the price. So I would argue and say that Russia doesn't want confrontation with the United States in the region. And because Israel, as I mentioned, is the spoiled baby of the United States, in this case, the Russians know their limitations and their absolute and first priority is Ukraine. Ukraine is existential for Russia. Syria is not existential for Russia. Maybe they could come back in a decade, 2, 3, to probably to try again to have an influence in the Middle East the way they wanted to in 2015. But at the current moment, they learned the lesson that their power is limited. There is an existential threat against them in Ukraine, so they would prioritize their energy resources inside Ukraine to keep the Russian Federation the way it is. And once or if or when they win this strategic existential war in Ukraine, then they could reallocate resources into other regions in the world. Now, some people in other YouTube channels, guys, I'm not going to criticize them, as I mentioned, and I'm not going to name names, but I also watch the way you guys watch YouTube, right? I watch other podcasts, I watch other people's analysis. And to be honest with you, in the alternative media, probably the best solid analysis you find probably you can count them in one hand, right? Like very few. The rest is basically hosting big names. They put their names in the title, so they get a lots of views because the name goes into the algorithm of YouTube. I'm not going to do that. Secondly, they are just recycling the same talking points or what the people like to watch. And I can assure you that from my experience with lots of people, the vast majority of the people would like to hear talking points, commentaries, right? Not like into in-depth analysis, theories, and what is going on in the balance of power around the world. They would like to hear Russia is smashing Ukraine and the United States is losing power and the dollar is gone and tomorrow it's going to be a bright new day of multipolarity. People like to hear such things. So many YouTubers, unfortunately, they are making career out of this wishful thinking and they rely on this style, which is, in my opinion, not helpful at all. So I will go to the questions again. Will Jolani have pride parades in Damascus now? No. Please comment on the price of gold and what does that indicate. Would be very interested to know your take. Actually, I have to really say I'm an ignorant on this thing. The other day, I saw a person who was making a brilliant analysis on X, and I read it once, I read it twice, I read it 3 times. I was like, what is happening to me? And I commented and I said, could you please explain to me, like I'm a 7-year-old? Like, I truly cannot give an opinion about something that I don't know. But I know for a fact that gold is the most important asset somebody can have if there is an economic crisis. And believe me, economic crises are ongoing all the time. It's never ending because the so-called elites like economic crisis, like inflation, like taxation, and you see the value of the dollar is dropping. The same goes to euros, but the gold is increasing. And if you want to know what probably may happen in the future, you have to see China and why they are buying all these tons of gold, right? So I believe that gold is the most important asset for sure. But unfortunately, gold is very heavy to move. And if something happens, I'm saying if a dystopian scenario is ahead of us and that day comes, and how can you move the gold, right? You could also be robbed. So some people go to cryptos, but crypto also has shown that during this trade war with China, it is also volatile, very volatile. So of course, gold is very stable and the worth and the value is increasing, but it's difficult to move, right? If you're going to, let's say, escape a war zone, how can you take with you gold? If there are checkpoints, if there's something, you could be robbed. So other people going to Bitcoin. Also, due to the policy suicide by the German Republic, please share your future outlook for Germany. I don't know what is this question, to be honest, but Germany is definitely in a very, very bad shape economically, and you can see the people are very tired in Germany, and the middle class is becoming poorer daily. You can see it with your objective eye: poverty, homelessness, drugs, insecurity. It's a really unfortunate situation what Germany has found itself, or the German politicians have made lots of mistakes, in my opinion. But I'm not in a position to really give an opinion, hard opinion or harsh opinion about it, because these politicians in Germany are also like a child, to be honest with you. They're really, really sensitive about giving a harsh criticism to them, especially that I'm not a German. And they come for revenge, and they use a lot. They have lots of powers: political power, legal power. They have different channels to really come after you. So I learned that lesson from the past. I have spoken loud when I came first to Germany, and they severely punished me for that. So I will not go into that. I'm not suicidal, and I think that they are really, really capable people. So I will stay balanced on this case. Hello, Kevork. Tell if building transport infrastructure Russia proposed from North to Persian Gulf, both auto and rail, is an important as military for security in our region. I'm from Turkmenistan. My friend, I think Russia is interested in regional economic integration. So the vision of Eurasia or multipolarity stands on integrating different regions economically with each other. So the idea is, the theory is that when you integrate different regions economically, you will have mutual interests. And when you have mutual interest means your win also means my win. And your success means my success. This is the theory. Now, in practice, some people will win more than others because they are more capable to produce. For example, China. Russia, in this case, is a very strong energy country, right? Definitely will make a lot of money, and they will use this money into building their infrastructure, their military, and they will become stronger and stronger and stronger. Now, all these railways and the proposed roads they're trying to establish different places, you see, China has its Silk Road initiative. China is proposing something. The Americans are trying to ruin everything by building different, for example, corridors like the Zangezur corridor in the Southern Caucasus. So the war and the struggle of power in the world is not exclusive for military combats and conflicts in Ukraine, in Syria, in Palestine, in Armenia, and in other places, like in Far East, in Taiwan, for example, but also trade. Because these countries can generate enormous amount of profits, let's say, and use it for their national interest. Now, the Russians and the Chinese function in the traditional how the countries used to behave, right, for a very long time. Unlike the United States could shape its policy not solely based on its national interests, but also based on its private donor, private corporation interests. And this creates a lot of, in my opinion, conflict in the United States, because there could be conflict of interest between what is the interest of the nation and what is the interest of these billionaires, the owners of the corporations. That's why, in my opinion, when the Chinese and the Russians invest into building such infrastructure, transport infrastructure, it will reflect positively on most of their citizens. But unlike in the United States, when you see that how many 7 billionaires or something own 70% of the American money or American economy or whatever, I think it's really the models are completely different. And therefore, you see that the US strikes deals, takes over oil in countries like Libya, Iraq, and now they're trying to take over Venezuela, but the value of the dollar decreases. The salaries are almost the same. People cannot afford private education or healthcare in the United States because the money they're getting back from these investments are not necessarily going into the treasury or into the national economy, but rather into the pockets of these billionaires. So it's a different model, in my opinion, in the US compared to in China and Russia. Our friend Kevork says, I missed the cake. If you live in the Netherlands and you missed the cake, let's hope there was no magic mushrooms in that cake that they distributed to the people. Or maybe they should be, I don't know. Will Al-Qaeda ideology take over Turkey? No. Turkey cannot be governed by an Al-Qaeda ideology. It is very multi-ethnic, multi-religious, and it's a very big country. And it's not like Syria, the minorities, for example, Christians are now how many? 200,000 people. The Alawites, 1.5 million people. And the numbers are with, I think, 10 million. How many Alawites, Alevis in Turkey? How percentage of Alevis in Turkey. Alevis are like around 10% of the. You have the Kurds, and it's a NATO country. Of course, it's not going to be an Al Qaeda. They will export this Al Qaeda ideology to achieve their goals in other regional countries, but not in Turkey itself. They will continue to be. As long as Erdogan is in power, it will continue to be like a Muslim Brotherhood light government. I also believe that the axis of resistance has been broken, especially through the loss of Syria. It will not be possible to rebuild the axis as it has been before. What geopolitical decision does Iran? By the way, my friends, every time you ask a question, please put an question mark at the end, because I get different notifications here when there is a question mark. Well, some people still reject the idea and the notion and the fact that the axis of resistance, or what used to be called the axis of resistance, has been broken. And they still want to tell the people that that's not the case. Well, I believe in the most objective way that the axis of resistance has failed, and they have lost this strategic war against the US-Israeli axis. And the realities on the ground show that Syria is gone. Iran has taken many steps back, and they are protecting their national security. Hezbollah leader the other days, like literally objectively said, like they're not ready for war with Israel again for the time being. And they don't have supply chains any longer. Gaza is completely decimated. Sorry, I said this and I will say this again. Palestinians didn't win this war in Gaza. Say it whatever you want. You can go and say, but Hamas has survived. Hamas is not the Palestinians. Hamas represents some of the Palestinians. But the Palestinians who lost everything, they haven't won this war, right? And I'm fed up with the idea that, but we are still alive. What kind of life is that when your entire present and the future and is completely destroyed? You have no future at all. And without foreign money, who is going to build Gaza? Anyways, I have a lot to say about what happened in Gaza. Unfortunately, some people are very, very sensitive, and they're like, you're a Zionist, If you don't agree with something, then you're a Zionist. But I don't think what Hamas's policies were correct in the past 2 decades. And they have been infiltrated by Qatar, by many powers who wanted to persuade Hamas into a type of policy which was destructive for the Palestinians. Hala Habibi. I'm Syrian from the coast, living for more than 30 years in the Netherlands, and totally disagree with you. Would you be okay to having a live stream? Of course. If you go to my YouTube channel, I will just show you how to do it, because some people ask me. Of course, I like to host you. It's I'm totally for respectful conversation. If you're a respectful person and you just have good intentions, why not? So if you go to my YouTube channel, you see here is Syriana Analysis, and then if you go to here more, click on more, and you go down below, you see here view email address. So send me an email, and we could arrange a talk on Syriana Analysis. We could have a chat. I'm sure we could agree on many other things. It doesn't have to be that we have to agree on everything. I didn't live in the Netherlands for 30 years. I don't know who is saying that. Do Israelis realize what Netanyahu has done by bringing Al-Qaeda government in Syria? The more important question than this is, do Syrians realize that Netanyahu helped bring Al-Qaeda government in Syria? Today I watched a video from Tel Aviv, and a conference called a Conference for Syrian Minorities. And I told you, once the regime was gone, the Assad government, I was contacted by an Israeli person claiming to be just a private person, but I don't believe that is the case at all. And because I didn't respond to his comments on X, so he became patron, so he paid money for my Patreon so that he can DM me, and basically says that the regime is gone, the axis of resistance has crumbled, and we have to become friends now because we have a mutual enemy, this Islamist Al-Qaeda, blah, 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 and I could invite you to Israel, you could come and see and everything, and I rejected it. I received an invitation to become a member in a political body. It's a Syrian political body, and they're just one colored, mostly are Alawites and Christians. And I dug in and I did some research, and I found out that the man sponsoring this political group is Ayub Kara, the former Minister of Communication in Israel. So I rejected it. So I think Israel is doing a lot now to present itself as the savior of minorities, and a lot of minorities in Syria are so desperate because of the massacres they have faced by the Jolani regime, and Israel is using that. But I'm not an idiot. I know what Israel has done in Syria. They have supported Al-Qaeda. They have given them weapons, they have given them cash money, they have given them medical treatment, and they have conducted hundreds of strikes against the Syrian army. Meanwhile, ISIS and Al-Qaeda were on the borders with the Golan Heights. They did nothing for them, against them. So I'm not the person, if they're looking for someone with a big platform to do some hasbara talking points for them. So I'm checking the questions. I'm reading the comments, guys. Please put at the end of your comment a question mark so I can see them. So have you heard the news recently that the Dutch government has forcibly accepted a Chinese enterprise? No. You could ask history questions as well, by the way. If I'm able to answer, I'm not claiming to be a historian, but if I know the question, the answer, I would definitely do it. Will Europe ever regain sovereignty, or is it bound to be deindustrializing US colony forever? Well, not the entire Europe is, let's say, revolving or submitting to the US diktats. Like you see, there are some movements, they are prioritizing their national interests, whether we agree with them or not ideologically. But in my opinion, the issue with Germany is very difficult. You have an entire generation of politicians who have been educated or groomed or influenced by American values and American politics. And whether knowingly or unknowingly, they found themselves embedded with the United States. And now we also have to recognize the fact that we have how many soldiers, US soldiers in Germany. Definitely, they're influencing local politics, foreign politics. And the US has its grip over several non-governmental organizations in Germany, and through them, they are influencing the decision-making in the US. Now, there are, of course, some parties in Germany rejecting this, such as BSW, it's called the Bundeswagenknecht, populist left wing, and then you have the populist right wing, the AfD. But in my opinion, the BSW is still very weak party, and the AfD, they are very much embedded with the Trump team and the Trump policies, which I don't see them anti-establishment, right? Trump is not an anti-establishment. They are building a new establishment, and the AfD is joining the ranks of the establishment. So whether the Europe will regain sovereignty or not, it is related. This question is related, in my opinion, to what the political class in these countries would like to do with their own countries, whether would they prioritize their national interests or not. For the moment, I'm not saying that is the case. Like 2 days ago, they have destroyed one of the final standing nuclear plants in Germany. It's crazy what they're doing with the German economy for ideological reasons, in my opinion. It doesn't serve the interests of the German people. But anyways, there is a lot to say about Europe. Unfortunately, they are themselves divided. And they had a very good opportunity, in my opinion, to play an independent role. And the world needed a Europe which can play an independent role and not completely subservient to the US. It's very unfortunate, in my opinion, that one day we used to look up for the EU and for the Europe, the continent, as a place where people from the third world countries could resort for diplomatic approaches to solve their problems. And now EU politicians are talking more about war than anything else. Very, very sad to see that this decline in the EU, actually. So we already answered this question. Habibi Ali, you are the best. حبيبي علوش والله لك شو بدي احكي والله ماني عارفان الله يعينكم بشرفي. What are your thoughts on the state of Libya? So very good question. Unfortunately, I don't think there is a Libyan state any longer. I will show you the map of control over Libya so that you have a better understanding of what is happening there. So this is the map of control over Libya. It's been a stalemate for quite some time, and you see the red, the green, and the blue. And so it's like three different states within a state. And this is one of the beautiful fruits of the freedom and democracy of the United States that they brought to Libya. There is no functioning state in Libya any longer, my friend. After Gaddafi, just like the same case in Syria, there is no state in Syria. There are gangs basically ruling over the country, gangs ruling between Aleppo to Damascus, and then you have militias in the eastern shore of the Euphrates, militias in Sueda. I'm not saying that with a negative connotation, but those are not states. They are militias, right? And if the opportunity rises and somebody comes and supports the Alawites and gives them weapons, you will see also Alawite militias rising against Jolani. So the central state has gone, and now everybody is acting like they're like independent states within a state. The fall of the democratically elected Mohamed Morsi government in Egypt seems to have been a disaster for the region since Sisi took control. How do you assess the impact? Thank you. I think a democratically elected president doesn't necessarily mean that he was serving the best interests of the Egyptian people. Now, I'm a very biased person against the Muslim Brotherhood. So whatever I tell you is not going to be objective. In my opinion, the Muslim Brotherhood is the worst thing which happened to the region since the 1920s. The Muslim Brotherhood has been the most regressive power in the region, which took these countries back for decades. They have fought against the nationalist movements, pan-Arabist movements, the pan-Syrian movements, the secular movements, and they have taken over the political landscape in many places, and they brought these countries centuries back. And Morsi, yes, he was democratically elected, but he was Islamizing Egypt. Now, economically, he was not doing also better. Egypt is, unfortunately, economically is doomed to fail, whoever governs Egypt. It's a very big growing country, over 100 million people, mostly living in very particular places, not like they are scattered all over Egypt, because they have to live in green places near the waters. And they are bound with security ties with the US, and they are bound with IMF loans. It's very difficult. It's like, you know, this economic assassin, they go to a country and they kill the economy. It's happened in Egypt, and it's hard, very, very hard to reverse the situation in Egypt, whoever comes next. My question is that will Turkic countries become unified? What do we mean by unified? Is it a geographical unity? No, but definitely Turkey will play, let's say, increasing role in bringing these Turkic countries together economically and ideologically. And the Zangetsu corridor, which they will open through Armenia, it will be an overland bridge for Turkey to project its influence over other Turkic countries. And Turkey is the most important player in these Turkic countries, and it's a NATO member. And NATO countries want for Turkey to play this role in Central Asia in order to destabilize the region when they want to, if China and Russia challenge US interests, let's say, in this region through Silk Road Initiative or military presence there. So I'm scrolling through the comments. My friend, I cannot really help you with the advertisements. I cannot really control the advertisement. What I can control is, before I start the live streaming, I can change the settings. And to be honest with you, there is a setting which says that I can ask YouTube to play more advertisements, and I don't do that. I only click on balanced, and I'm promised that every 30 minutes there would be one advertisement. I cannot really control that for you, sorry. So I'm going to, are you talking about Jeffrey Sachs? No, I'm not talking about Jeffrey Sachs, by the way. I think Jeffrey Sachs was so damn correct about Ukraine and Syria. I don't know what is his take on Palestine much, but if he's talking about the decline of the US empire, de-dollarization, all these things, probably those are exaggerated. But he was so damn right on Ukraine and Syria. Jeffrey Sachs has been the person who opened my eyes about Operation Timber Sycamore around 10 years ago. أهلين حبيبي رامي. So I'm scrolling. Can we see US is playing again the game of Bitcoin economy to protect the dollar? I don't know how can they do that with Bitcoins, to be honest. Sevak, how do you explain Russia's failure to stop European attacks, especially by allowing some things to be humiliated, especially by allowing Russia to be... Very good question. Actually, what Russia is in the position of containing and absorbing these attacks. Because put yourself in the shoes of the Russian officials, and I'm not defending them, right? But if you're Russian officials and you're receiving such blows that are not strategically detrimental, like those attacks, you receive these attacks, they are harmful, it's blow, but are they really changing the pace of the war? Are they really changing the advances of the Russian forces on the ground? The answer is no. So if you want to take a step, escalatory step against Europe, whether through, let's say, direct attacks or covert operations, cyber attacks, you will be exposed very quickly. And this will lead into bringing all the European countries together and sending troops into Ukraine, something that Russia doesn't want to see. So Russia prefers bleeding slowly and slowly gaining more ground in Ukraine than taking any bold action that could like explode the situation completely. In my opinion, Russian policymakers are rational actors, and they don't want an all-out war in Europe. A question from Rumble. Those who are watching on Rumble, welcome, Habibis. And if you would like to support this work also on Rumble, please hit the like button. Also on YouTube. Is there a chance for the Syrian opposition to organize and pose a threat to the new terrorist cabal? No. Politically, there is no way to challenge this terrorist regime. Militarily, yes, if they receive money, weapons, training with a very high cost, human cost, probably tens of thousands of deaths, new casualties. So I don't want to see that situation again and I don't want to see more blood is being shed in Syria. It's like you're stuck between two rocks, a terrorist regime or bloodshed. The only possible way to remove this terrorist regime in Damascus is if they take a step which would endanger Israel, which they will never do it. But if they do that, they would be removed quickly. Not even like their entire army would be completely annihilated in a matter of few days by Israeli Air Force. So that's the only way. And I don't want Israel, of course, to take any action in Syria. Only I'm saying hypothetically that is the only way to remove them from power now, because there is a consensus an agreement between Turkey and Israel to keep the Jolani regime and control over these regions like Aleppo North, let's say Aleppo, Idlib, Homs, Hama, Homs, Damascus. The agreement also is to create a demilitarized zone south of Syria, south of Damascus, which means Daraa, and now keep the Druze in control and in charge of Sweden and the Kurds in eastern shore of the Euphrates. And probably Russia would have to step in more in the coastal region. Syria is gone. I told you on the 9th of December 2024 when the regime change happened. Thank you, Sevak Habibi, for gifting a Syriana Analysis membership. So, where were we? I was trying to... thanks, Kevork. Okay. I'm checking the questions. Okay, we're here. Do you have any hope in the Syrian population? Are you Syrian? I personally am very disappointed by the Syrian people. And I say it with pain in my chest, you know. Very, very disappointed. I had different impression. What would it take for Russia to be a superpower? Lots of things. One of which is, first, is the desire to become a superpower. Second, military power itself doesn't create a superpower. You need to have military bases around the world. That is true. But you also have to be able to project your military might through economic means. China is more than capable of becoming a superpower. They are exerting economic power around the world, and they're creating alliances around the world. And they're creating products, they're creating technology, they're creating military equipment, they have ideology. Like during the Soviet times, when you used to talk about Yugoslavia as a communist country, or in the Eastern Bloc, for example, there is no longer such a bloc. And Russia is not the Soviet Union. I have to repeat that all the time. And they don't want to become a superpower. I believe Hamdi is a dangerous sectarian who asserts the Palestinian cause massively through his support of NATO-Israeli war. I totally agree with you, my friend Hassan Ahmad. I think you're talking about Hamdi, who has been arrested now in the US, and he's been kicked out of the country, or visa is revoked. Hamdi is a Muslim Brotherhood sectarian radical maniac. I am on the opposite side of him. I don't want him to be deported from the United States. I'm not for revoking people's visas, of course, but I despise his opinions and despise his ideology, and he has been very destructive for Syria and eventually for Palestine. And all this Salafi Islamist talk already, it hurts Palestine. It creates a situation where Israel would say, look to my opponents, they are radical Islamist jihadists. I cannot negotiate with them, and they hate me because I'm a Jew, right? And these people are very dangerous. I really despise what they do, like Hamdi and others. Could China and USA confront in Venezuela? No, they will not confront the USA. They will probably provide weapons, logistics, intelligence to Venezuela, but they will not intervene directly. Like, how can China and Russia come all the way from the end of the world to support Venezuela? You need to have also like either land bridge or a water bridge or whatever to bring supplies, right? If you want to intervene directly, that's not going to happen. Would you be open to a live conversation with the Jolanis on the situation in Syria? I thought that you will come to my show. Are you a Jolanist? Let us know in the comments below. Do you think the reason for the weird war in Ukraine is because Vladimir Putin is also under control of the Zionists? I don't know if the war in Ukraine has anything to do with Israel or the Zionists, to be honest with you. I don't know. So, question, does Gaullism still exist in Europe? I don't know. Does it still exist, my friend? Do you see it? Yeah, the mushrooms would be great in the cake. People are laughing. Question. Russia, USA, China, who needs oil more? I think the US and China, they need the oil more. Russia is exporting more. China is becoming the manufacturing powerhouse, so they will need more oil and gas. Alevis and Alawites difference, yes, that's true. Very slight difference. Could Syria have been saved, the demographic one? What could have been done except total Ba'athist dictatorship? Yeah, that's a very good question, actually. Syria cannot be unified and ruled and bring everybody together except with certain level of Jacobian force. Those who don't understand this and think that it's a la-la land and you will just create a beautiful democratic state and everybody will coexist are just delusional. They don't understand anything about Syria or in the region. You will always need a certain level of military rule, dictatorship, authoritarianism, certain level of tyranny. I don't like that. I'm a very well-behaved person and I can live in a democratic state and respect the rule of law and respect my neighbor and respect everything they believe in, even if they don't believe in anything. I just can accept and coexist and live with them. The question is, do the majority in Syria accept the differences with their neighbors? Do they believe that they are right and God told them they are right and everybody else is wrong, and not only that they have to fight against them to convince them that we're right and they're wrong? How can you create a civil society and a civil state under such circumstances? You will always need a figure who is unifying the people. And the examples are clear, like Saddam Hussein, Gaddafi, Hafiz, Bashar, so many, and then kingdoms in the Gulf. Why is there no one single developed democracy in the region? Now people come and say, Israel is a democracy. No, it's not. I don't know what role Pakistan is playing in the region, but from the way the prime minister was complimenting Trump the other day, I don't have much hope in Pakistan if that's the prime minister. But Hezbollah definitely lost a lot of control in south of Litani. Everybody accepts that. Everybody in the leadership of Hezbollah knows it. But they are developing a new strategy, I heard. So we will wait and see. But Hezbollah has received a really bad blow in this last war. Sevak is asking a question with a sticker. He says, I have a complex question. How does Kevork feel about being of Armenian origin and the Syrian national living in the? I just can't figure it out for myself. I'm Syrian. I hold only Syrian nationality, Syrian passport. But passport doesn't really define how people feel about anything, right? I was born and raised in Aleppo. I have eaten from the Aleppo food. I drank from the Aleppo water. I lived among Aleppo people. I studied in Syria. I lived among Syrian people. And the Armenians of Syria are integral part of the Syrian society. So Syria is an identity of a different mosaic, which makes them Syrians, right? It's not like Syria is like being a Syrian is like it's an ethnicity or a nationalist idea. It was the umbrella which brought all these different ethnicities, sects, religions under one umbrella. And I have felt, and I still feel, like I'm Syrian. But nowadays also you have a huge percentage of Syrians who are, whether they support Jolani or they are just now pretending to support Jolani, they don't believe that I'm a Syrian. They think Syria is some just Arabic country and that I should shut the fuck up. And they're the only ones who have the right to express opinions about Syria. This is how they believe. And they tell me, go back to Armenia and all these things. They don't really affect anything in my convictions because I know what are my motivations and I know my goodwill for Syria and for the Syrian people, even though many, many Syrians do not even know their own interests. I know the interests of many, many people in Syria and defended them more than they think, right? And they have made up lots of things about me. They distorted my reputation, but I think they're delusional. What I believe is nowadays, as many people, they feel ashamed also of the behavior and the way many Syrians are acting when it comes to their personal lifestyle in Europe or the way they are acting now after the regime change in Syria. It's really shameful to watch these Syrians, the decay in the moral decay. And like, if you tell someone you're a Syrian, then in Europe, then you have to follow up that with lots of things for the person not to think you're just some crazy maniac, you know? Unfortunately, they tarnish the reputation of the Syrians. One of our friends with Bolton's photo, I'm sure he's making a fun. He says, Habibi Kevork from the West Biqa Valley. Love you, brother. Thank you for all these years and all the work you have done. It's a sad state of affairs in our region at the moment. You, my true Syrian friend, Habibi Joe Bolton. I'm sure you're not Joe Bolton, but I know what you mean, wallah. And I don't need recognition of these Jolanists for me to know that what I have done in the past 14 years was it was positive. And I know that I have left an impact, and I know that I was influential. And I know that millions of Syrians probably hate me and they want me killed. And I know all these things. You know, one day I was watching a video. Michel Eleftheriades, since you are Lebanese, you know that, you know him. This was a very long time ago, by the way, 20 years ago. So I was watching a video of him, and he says the job of the politician is like the parents, and the parents, like the job of the parent is not to give sweets to the kid every time the kid wants sweets. The job of the parent is to give them soup when they need soup, and then give them sweets when they need the sweet, right? And I think the job of this should not only be exclusive to politicians, but also for those who have become opinion leaders. Like, there are sometimes that I express opinions or I tell the people things that they feel very irritated and provoked by it, but I do it out of necessity. Unfortunately, you cannot really explain everything to everyone. So people come and like, oh, you're a shabir, you're a this and that. But I'm not a shabir, I know it. But I know myself better than these people know. So I'm not going to be, I used to be very sad in the past when they comment such things, but I no longer, I think that these people are completely insane. why would I even care about their opinion of me, right? So we are still going through questions. Oh my God. Psychedelic. What is this? People are talking about psychedelic. Hey, Kev, do you think Syria story was a playbook by US, Israel, Iran, and Russia? Do you think Russia, Iran just play bad guys, but really they are on this? It's not that simple. I think Iran and Russia really tried to rebalance the situation in Syria, but they had their own limitations and also their own interests. They were not 100% like just serving the interests of the Syrians, but they also had their own interests in Syria. And that has really brought lots of conflict of interest, different countries in Syria. But I would argue and say Russia and Iran didn't have to intervene in Syria were it not for the CIA engineered regime change operation and the insurgency that they have prepared and executed in Syria. They are the ones who started this, and they urged and invited other people to come to Syria. That's the bitter and unfortunate truth. Our friend says, but in the end, they can smear you, but they can't tell you a liar. That's the difference. The truth only needs to be said once, while their side have to lie 1,000 times. I have more respect to you than all the hypocrites are. I agree with you 100%. I have been working about at least Operation Timber Sycamore since 2017, so around 8 years now. And I have not received once a commentary or debunking, rebuttal, anything from anyone saying this is false, this is a lie. Not once. People were just like calling you names. But that doesn't make their argument correct. And unfortunately, there is this Arabic saying, لا تستخف بالبهائم في أعداد كبيرة, do not underestimate idiots in big numbers. And this is what happened in Syria, basically. One of our friends is asking, Turkey has been building many ships bases and has staked some odd maritime claims through the Mediterranean. If they try to dominate that part of the sea, is there economic gain? There is huge gas fields beneath the Mediterranean, my friend. And Turkey is building all these ships and warships in order to project its military strength on the region, which is leading into the militarization also of Greece and Cyprus and the closer relationship between Greece, Cyprus, and Israel. One of the main reasons of the war in Gaza is the gas beneath the Mediterranean. One of the main reasons of the detrimental war against Hezbollah in Lebanon because of the gas fields in front of Lebanon. That Hezbollah said, if Israel comes anywhere close, we will shoot them down. And they have Yahud missiles, right? So the issue of the gas and the energy is very detrimental and important. And that's why there is a competition, and that's why Turkey is building more ships in the Mediterranean in order to have better access to these gas and energy fields in the Mediterranean, 100%. I'm sorry that I didn't see your comment earlier, by the way. So I will continue probably another 10 minutes. I'm from Lebanon. I lived in Lebanon, by the way, for 3 years. I studied in Balamand University, and then I worked in Beirut for, I think, another 3 years. I loved Lebanon. Okay, contact me, Habibi, on my email, okay? So for most of the oil-rich countries and region in the Middle East, how can be more friends, or who has the more benefits to work with? I don't I didn't really understand the question, to be honest. Ahsant, yeah, I will not deal with these people, believe me. Did you tell him that Israel propped up Al-Qaeda? I told many people, and they agree, and they say, yeah, that was a mistake. We shouldn't have done that. Yeah. My mother tongue is Armenian. I learned Armenian at home and in the kindergarten, in school in Aleppo. I also consider Arabic as a mother tongue because I was born and raised in Syria and studied Arabic in the kindergarten and also in the school. And then I learned English. Like I improved my English when I went to university. And I had a German teacher with whom I spoke English most of the time. And I started learning German when I moved in Germany. I finished my C1, which is the C1 level, in 2017, I believe. So I can also speak very good German. And unfortunately, when you live in Berlin, you don't really use German a lot. You speak English. Many people speak English here. Do you think terrorists around Syria will be accepted into BRICS? The short answer is yes. If they continue with the application, they will be. I'm checking for more questions. Where is Red Access? He's all right. Don't worry about him. He will come back. Hopefully in a week. We're waiting for him and we missed him. As our friend Sevak says, please like and share and appreciate Kevork's time. This is my duty, actually. I really like what I do. So if you appreciate what I do, the easy thing to do, guys, is to really just like the stream, the video, subscribe. And if you want to do more, you can also support the independent work I'm doing. There are different means in the description below. I copy all the links there. So what's the green part? I'm checking for digital currency and digital ID. What are the real political aims for implementing that idea? I don't see any pros in digital IDs and centralized digital currencies. They want to link your digital currency to your digital ID. And they want to link all your social media platforms to your digital ID. So you cannot really log into your account without a digital ID, which means if you have the wrong opinion, if you are an opinion leader, if you're someone who is expressing the wrong opinions, etc. First of all, this will completely abolish anonymity. You cannot have an anonymous account. You have to verify them with digital IDs. And secondly, your digital currencies will be linked to your digital ID, and there will be the digital wallet, which means that the government can control what you can. So you have money, you have $100, right? And this $100, the government can decide if they want to on what you can spend this money. If it's digital, you can, for example, spend only, let's say, $10 of your money on certain product which they say has a high carbon, for example, pollution or something, right? And the same thing goes to, for example, you have the money, but they block it because it's digital. You cannot really control it. There is nothing in your hand. And if you you have the wrong opinion, they can just simply block your wallet or limit the way you can spend your money. So if you want to give your neck to the government and you still want to have a different opinion about things, then you will be completely enslaved by the governments if they implement this idea. Question: in your estimation, are we in for a second round of growing war in the Levant, etc., Lebanon, Syria, Israel, and how are these pieces moving in different groups like Hezbollah and other factions? So I think today Tom Barak was in Lebanon, and according to Al Akhbar newspaper, the US envoy for Syria, Tom Barak, said the following: "This will be my last visit to Lebanon. I will inform the president, the prime minister, and the speaker of the parliament that they have one last chance. Either they learn their lesson and decide to enter into direct negotiations with Israel under US auspices to establish a timetable and mechanism for disarming Hezbollah, or Lebanon will be left to its fate and will remain so for a long time, with no one to care about it, neither in America nor in the region, and no one will be able to pressure Israel to prevent it from doing whatever it deems appropriate to undertake disarmament by force." So if we really read between the lines, it's quite obvious that the US and Israel have they have lots of assets in the Lebanese political and journalistic classes. And they have been trying to blame Hezbollah for this last war, the support war which Hezbollah started in defense of the Palestinians, right? And they say that you lost this war, and you and there is a proven fact, according to them. Of course, I'm not saying that's a fact, that you lost this war, and now you have to make a compromise. And you have to compromise not only with Israel, you have to compromise with us. You have to disarm yourself, and we have to go into peace negotiations, because we cannot fight against Israel, and we cannot win against them. Now, of course, even if we believe in the merit that Hezbollah lost the war, for an argument's sake, right? They have received a major blow, I said. But let's suppose they have completely lost the war, and now they have to make a compromise. If Hezbollah compromises and accepts Israel, which they will never do that, I believe, but let's suppose they did that and they disarmed, what is going to happen in Lebanon? Israel will roll into southern Lebanon and occupy till the Litani River. 100%. There is no doubt about that. The Israeli newspapers are talking about parts of southern Lebanon as part of the biblical Israel, right? They're telling you what they're going to do. But the most important thing and the most dangerous thing that could happen to the people in Lebanon, especially the Shias, they will be slaughtered. Their heads will be dragged in the streets from Beirut, probably to Deir ez-Zor. And this is not going to happen by Israel. It's going to happen by the Jolani people. And everybody knows, guys, that the Jolani people are sectarian maniacs. And they hate the Shias more than anyone. They hate the Alawites more than anyone. And they were fed in the past 14 years that the Shias came to Syria. I mean, Hezbollah came to Syria to slaughter our Sunni brothers and sisters, to rape our women, to kill our children. All these things, they don't only suspect it, they believe in it. If Hezbollah disarms, the main threat is going to become by the Jolani regime and all these sectarian fanatics. They will not hesitate for a moment to take revenge or try to take revenge from Hezbollah. Therefore, Hezbollah has a double motivation to not disarm. So I'm explaining why wouldn't they disarm. So second phase of war is a real possibility, because under such circumstances, Hezbollah will never accept to disarm. So what are the options of the US? They have been pressuring the Lebanese government, the president, the prime minister, and they were all playing the game, balls, with the United States and Saudi Arabia, because they want to just finish this issue in the Middle East and bring everybody into the Abraham Accords. They have done it now with Syria. Jolani will join the Abraham Accords. Only Hezbollah stands in the middle in Lebanon. And no one in Lebanon can fight against Hezbollah, even if you give them weapons. They will be crushed. So the only power in the region which would try for the second time is Israel. And what Hezbollah has done, in my opinion, you cannot really break Hezbollah, because Hezbollah is not like simply a military organization or like a military, an army, an official army. Hezbollah are the people in the south. Like, we have seen so many videos in the last war, people who literally look like myself, like just normal people, like, because, you know, they try to portray Hezbollah people like they're the most crazy terrorists and all this stuff. They were just like engineers, doctors, they were barbers, they were farmers, they were just like, they are the owners of that land. So in order to finish Hezbollah, you have to kill and ethnically cleanse the population in the south, which is not possible. So it's a big dilemma for Hezbollah to deal with this situation, but it's a bigger dilemma for those who want to completely end the Palestine issue by bringing everyone into the Abraham Accords. So Hezbollah, I think, will prefer the long game. They will contain the damages now, and they will try to sustain themselves and their presence in Lebanon as long as they can, and wait for the right circumstances to weigh in and play a different type of role. For the moment, Hezbollah has no interest in going into another open war with Israel, but Israel has an interest in going into war against Hezbollah. This is my opinion. So, my friends, it is 18 and 11 already in Central European time. I really apologize that I wanted to answer all your questions, and I really tried. If you want me to do more live Q&As, please let me know now in the comments below. And I want to ask you also something. This is the final thing before I end up. And please don't go before answering this. And please type this in the comments below, not in the live chat, because then I will be able to read them. As you may know, I host our dear friend Tarek Cheril Amar every Friday. We do a show together. It's called Cold War 2.0. Our focus is mainly on global politics. It's about Ukraine, Russia, China, US, Europe, right? And the rest of the week, usually I'm doing myself. But now I also want to cooperate with another analyst, geopolitical analyst, a solid analyst, not wishful thinker. I want someone who is truly telling us the true facts and solid analysis, not wishful thinking, not telling the people what they like to hear. There are so many big names, you know, but I want someone, I don't care about how big is the name. I want someone who's telling us real, true facts, factual things about the Middle East, and probably also about China. So if you have candidates and names that you think can become a weekly guest on Syriana Analysis, don't type the names in the live chat. Once this video is over and the stream is over, please type their names in the comments below so I can read them, because the live chat is not possible to access after the live streaming is over. Just finally, what is the demographic of your subscribers, Kevork? So the demographic of my subscribers, most of the people watching my channel are Americans. And most of the viewers are male. And most of the viewers are from the United States and over 45 years old. This is the demographic of my channel. Okay, Habibis, thank you so much for tuning in to today's live streaming. And I will see you tomorrow. Peace be upon you, upon your families. Salam.